embrace us.
Yeah.
They understand that. I guess we acknowledged all of that and said, that's great, but again, those are just words, and we've heard those words before from others and have ended up having something else happen, and so you can understand how we're a little gun shy. With those, I think they respected that, and there was some discussion of they were going to take some action with respect to that to sort of provide as much clarity to us on that as possible, right? That there's, if they were to go down the path of selecting the tax exempt, that would actually sort of initiate a process, we couldn't do an official review process, right?
So
Well, we tried to put it onto the conditional use. They were willing to go back to plan commission, as I'm the chair of plan commission.
Right.
We were talking about going back and modifying their conditional use, so that if they ever went tax exempt, their conditional use would expire and they'd have to come back and redo it. Our attorney has advised that we can't do that. So, Bart, what was the solution?
So based on conversations with the attorney, he advised that that was not the way that he thought this could be, handled. So his recommendation was to memorialize the discussion of last week within a separate agreement that would essentially have the same triggers, but would not cloud the previous plan commission's review or approval. So I documented what I had in my notes for that and talked with two of their attorneys. They were going to take the first stab at providing the assurance that they could, and then provide it back to us for review and cross ideas. But so
they're basically just gonna give us a letter saying that's what they're gonna do.
correct, and within that letter,
And if they change, I think if they change X, Y, and if they try to change to tax exempt, these steps.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the action
Yes.
we're looking for.
Okay.
and from the village's perspective, we just want to make sure that those steps that we can then take would have some
Teeth.
action that we could do with them.
Right.
So if they do change to the tax exempt, did the idea of a pilot come up?
Yes,
There's no tip in place.
And
But
they're
yes.
so willing?
yes. I mean,
It was discussed.
verbally, yes. I would say that.
Yeah.
They were open to it.
They weren't open to anything in perpetuity because that
Correct.
was the big sticking point to them. They kept saying
We can't, yeah.
guarantee this forever, just with the people at the table. So I'm interested to see what they come back with. They thought they'd come back with something by the end of this week. I've gotten nothing at this point yet, but that's kind of the next steps that we're at.
So again, currently, it's taxable. That's their intent. Now, that was really our question. Again, no intent to go down that path. Everything is pointing actually to the other direction of not going to the tax exempt because of this sort of break between the hospital and the clinics.
And they have all the approvals they need right now to open?
Not
No.
quite.
No.
Okay.
There's-
What
there's
is
a-
the
We're holding
status?
those. We're holding those illegally.
No, so it's being held on a legitimate technicality.
Yes.
They don't actually own all three parcels. So
There's three
Sendix was
parcels
three
there.
parcels.
Yeah.
Oh.
They
Yeah.
took ownership of two of them without realizing the third one was part of Sendix. I think that kind of slipped through the cracks of a lot of people.
It's the alleyway, basically,
Yep.
right? Part of the
So
alleyway.
in between Walgreens and Sendix, that alleyway is actually owned by Sendix. So when their certified survey map came in to consolidate all three parcels, the county essentially said, we will not record this until it's under the same ownership.
Oh.
And so that is being held up with Sendix for the concept of perhaps back taxes on that parcel. So there's a lot of moving pieces in terms of
So,
who all needs to agree to what. But it is a technicality that's it's legitimate.
And everybody's working to resolve it.
so
Yeah.
the bottom line is they need to acquire that parcel of land prior
Yes.
to,
Yes.
prior
Yes.
to moving forward.
Yep.
And so their building permits can't be issued until they have the CSM, and so
Right.
there is impetus on their part to get this moving as quickly as possible, so.
Okay.
And design review has the problem, or they're working through it.
They still have a design review board, question with, how they're treating the windows in the front,
Yeah, I
so.
remember some discussion about that, like.
So there are a couple other things hanging
Okay.
out there, but the one big technicality is this ownership of that third parcel.
And I'm just curious, this is not really germane to this discussion, but they're just leaving it as a one-story building, right? They're not adding on or
Correct.
anything,
Correct,
it's
yeah.
basically just staying.
There's a second story in the back, Yeah, there's a second story.
Right,
It
there's a
wasn't
little like
mezzanine.
office kind of.
They're making it into a legitimate second story with offices back there, but
Okay.
they're not expanding.
And there's
that
a
area.
fiesta room in the basement.
Yeah, we learned that too.
There's a
Cool.
fiesta.
Really?
They said the basement is just like, a basement of a grocery store, you imagine, but then in the back corner, there's like a room painted red and white, and like things all over, like it's a fiesta room. You have to open that up to the public. We need a fiesta room.
Well, that all sounds good. That sounds like we're getting kind of what we had hoped.
And again, they were very, I would say they were very open, very, wanting to do the right thing. And our concern was they might, you know, at some point, they might not be there, we might not be here. They might have a senior person saying, hey, wait a minute, we can, if we made all these tax exempt, we can save a ton of money, why aren't we doing this? So that's why we were looking for a little more formal agreement that goes beyond just the people around the table.
President Rosa, I think your comment got lost in
Yeah.
there. Did you have something to?
Oh, I just wanted to say this was Peter really shined in this meeting. He was like, he was not backing down.
Good.
Well,
And what is happening? They do not own the building that they're in. They lease that currently, the one on
they own that,
Capitol.
They own it.
Oh,
They
they
own
do own it.
yep.
It's just a different.
And
legal
it's an
entity,
or whatever,
yes.
yeah. But
What's
it's
do we have any idea what the
Yeah.
plan is for
No.
that building yet?
We asked, and I guess their response was that is a secondary issue. We are currently focusing specifically on.
They're gonna sell it.
But
They wanna sell
I
it.
think that's the, yeah.
And then the North Shore Bank parcel, just in all transparency, is, shopping their property around. And so between the two, you could do some land assembly if you were, I don't know, I'm just saying there's developers roaming around thinking of those things.
The
Yes.
corner
Yes.
building, North Shore Bank.
And that whole
And the parking
area.
lot.
Yeah,
See the
because they own that whole parking lot and
Yes.
everything back there, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
that's a big parcel.
It is a big parcel, yes.
Yeah.
There's one thing that was like in the middle that's missing, that's not there.
There's
So
an
anyway.
apartment complex.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
so that's,
Oh, yeah.
so I think that's good news
Yeah.
on Ascension.
Okay, so that's Ascension. The other stuff, I met with our GIS consultant. Just through the transportation and parking study, it became apparent that we don't have the data that a lot of these firms expected or hoped that we had. So I kind of preemptively met with them to understand what we can, build with them. So that's just kind of a background thing. But if the CDA or anyone else has any ideas of what kind of GIS data they're looking for, just know that's in the back of my head that I need to make this list of things that we should be adding to it. But something.
Give examples.
Well, so crosswalks, stop signs, bike infrastructure, street widths, so.
Like
when I-
layers in the GIS. We're
Yeah,
talking
when I
about-
issued the RFP, at least one or two consultants came back and requested, what kind of information do you have that we can work with, or what do we need to build into the system to give you the information you're looking for, and yeah, they were looking for crosswalks, stop signs, things like that, so that they could, quickly analyze it, or do they have to, drive the village or Google map the village, things like that, so there are kind of basic layers that we could add, relatively easy, whether that's stop signs or whatever. It might take an intern to help me do that, but, so I just met with the consultant to say, what would it take for me to give you this to add to it? So it's kind of the beginning of a conversation in that respect. But hopefully within this study, we'll identify a lot more things that could be useful to make it more robust and useful
Yeah.
to staff, residents, et
It
cetera.
is a powerful tool, right?
So,
When
yeah,
it's set up right, it's
correct.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that happened this month. Rebecca and I met with the Bubbler Bike Share System representatives this week just to discuss current operations and potential additions, modifications to the stations. It's kind of just a preliminary conversation. They want to keep the dialogue open. I'll be
Yeah.
honest,
Mark, did you talk about snow removal? Cause all the residents want to know why they're not shoveling the snow.
yeah, and Rebecca did email me that question later in the week. I didn't have a chance to. I don't know where the agreement might lie, but my understanding is they should be removing the snow if they're being operational. So I think that she had communicated that back to them. I won't say for certain, but my understanding, and it's not unverified, I should say, because I have not seen the agreement, because that took place before I got here. But my understanding is they should be removing the snow if the station is operational. But I can continue to look into that if that's
And Neil
memorialized.
said that in multiple requests.
Yeah, I've heard, I want to second that, I've heard that as well.
Okay.
And if you walk by the Metro, at least a few days ago, the Metro Market Bubbler bike station it was like buried,
Sure.
it was like 18 inches of snow, there was no way you could get a bike out of there.
And that, for what it's worth, they all look like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do.
I mean, they're not, and my guess is because it's not financially feasible for them to do it, cause no one's using the bikes that much in winter, even if they were cleared, is my guess, otherwise they'd be cleared.
Well, and again,
We'll find out.
they're the clearing area for the other snow, that's the problem. The reason it's piled on is
Right.
because all the snow is being blown onto that.
Yeah.
Because they're in the sections
So it's like
exactly where
doubly
snow
hard to
would
keep
go.
them.
It is, yeah.
Cause when the plows go by,
They
they
just
just
dump
fill
it
it right
right
up
there,
there.
yeah.
It's like my property over on King Drive, like guys come and clear the snow and then the plows come by
Yeah,
at 60
dump
miles
it
an
all.
hour and
Right,
like,
right.
color the damn thing
Yeah.
again.
Yep,
And they're not a huge staff admittedly,
No.
so they might be focusing on the most used stations first and getting to us eventually, but I will follow up with them, sometime today to see if I can get a confirmation of that status.
just out of curiosity, were there other issues driving this meeting, or was it the snow, or was it just a status update, where are we more generally?
Yeah, they've been meeting with us probably every 6 months or so just to give us to stay in contact with us, give us reports, things like that. They did, one thing they talked about was operational, funding from entities, and so, but they were gonna, it was kind of an introduction of, they were gonna come back to us, in 6 months or whenever that was to continue that conversation, but nothing specific at this time.
Okay,
My understanding is perhaps Milwaukee recently, did entertain or grant some operational funding, and so I think they're getting that worked out and considering other things, but nothing formally at this time,
Okay.
but I guess that is a kind of a heads up on that. I did, participate in a webinar, in terms of the village's obligations for state reporting on affordable housing. So there was state legislation passed, I believe, last year that requires, municipalities above 10,000 to do, 2 reports, and so this kind of was the introduction to what those reports could look like. I'll be honest, the webinar was kind of overwhelming in terms of 1,000 possibilities of what your report could look like. It's the first time, so there was no template. So yeah, so essentially my homework after that was to read the state statutes
You got a
to see,
blank page
right,
to
to
see.
see what we're doing. I did have some communication with Milwaukee and Greenfield about what they were doing, just because we all saw that we were on a conversation together. So that's a to be determined, but I think it will be determined perhaps when I get my teeth more into the neighborhood loan program and we discuss possible market research on that. So I think at that time I'll probably focus in on that. But we have until the end of the year. Essentially,
What's the report is just reporting how much affordable
what
housing
we
you have?
have,
one of the elements of the report is to document your fees and what it takes to build housing, to determine whether, essentially, it's a self-reflection as to whether or not your regulations are pushing the cost of housing above and beyond.
The answer is yes.
Right. Well,
I mean, not ours, I mean.
I would say the village's
Local,
fees, yeah, the
current
village's
codes,
fees, I don't
building
think-
codes do not allow affordable housing to be built without subsidy. I mean,
But they're-
I can tell you that.
Yeah, but they're talking more, also like, do you require 5-acre lots and things like that?
Yeah.
It is kind of aimed more at outer suburbs.
Intentional.
Okay.
Yeah, and so in terms of documenting our stuff, I don't think it's gonna be that difficult. But it also could get super detailed depending on how we choose to take it. But I guess this is just me saying I've got homework to do. I haven't fully researched it yet, but it is something that municipalities over 10,000, and as the housing authority, I guess you'll be participating in that, so that is coming. What's the next one? So, I did work with our building inspection staff on commercial occupancies, there's been a lot of discussion of the vacancy program and things like that popping up again, so I just wanted to make sure the data on our end of things was clear. And so they are making sure, we do have an occupancy renewal program that requires every 5 years that people renew their occupancy, so we're making sure our data and renewals are all in line for that, so I did do that, and then we also, Erica had set up a retail kind of vacancy database, so I updated those documents, or those numbers with it.
I have a question about occupancy. So, does every business in any location have to get an occupancy permit?
Yes.
So even if they're renting 300 square feet
Correct.
in an office building,
Yep.
they have to get their
Yep.
own occupancy when they move in, theoretically.
And those are the most difficult ones for us to track or understand, because a lot of people don't realize that and they move in and no one knows that. How we typically end up realizing that is, when we're doing an inspection of the building and our inspectors, when they're inspecting someone else, and they go, wait, someone's in that room too, cause our records don't show that. And it's not about being punitive, we just wanna know that the space they're occupying is up to code.
Right.
It's a safety standard, cause some people, you know, they'll change things or fix things or move a wall here and there, right, for their needs, so it is kind of just a rather cursory inspection at the time to just verify that the space is up to commercial occupancy. But those smaller offices are the more difficult ones, so just kind of a house cleaning thing, but I know the CDA is interested in knowing vacancy information, so that is a useful tool that we do have. I did continue compiling demographic data for the Imagine Shorewood Retail Recruitment and Redevelopment Opportunities brochure that the CDA allowed some funding to get those reports and some graphic design work on that, so it wasn't as easy as I had hoped in terms of copying and pasting new information there, because the data sets have changed, so I just need to work with Erica on confirming, you know, the final inclusion of that. The last one here, you know, the transportation parking analysis, we've discussed that pretty thoroughly. And then grants and loans, and to come up last meeting, that we did have 2 facade grants that were, you know, kind of outstanding. Power Cycle has been submitted, and I believe has been formally reimbursed. And Blues Egg did submit after the last CDA meeting, I think. I don't know if Erica went back to them, but said, hey, it's been long enough, right? So that one is also in. So as of now, there are no outstanding grants on that. In the future, we will work together on more timely reimbursements on those, but at least for now, we are up to date. So that's pretty much all I had. Erica had indicated that she didn't really have much additional to share, so I thought she might have been here, but I don't, she didn't have a report to share, so let's go with mine for now, I guess.
Alright, good.
Alrighty,
Thank you.
thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
I believe that's all of our business. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I would move to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you, Elsa.
All right.
Never-
Under an
Thanks,
hour.
Allison. See ya.
Yeah, thanks.